Review time. A big thank you to Michael Mullinax, who left us a 5-star Google review. He said, I own a construction company and I love hearing how to make my business more competitive, profitable, and how to better serve my clients. Such is a wonderful place to get valuable knowledge no matter your trade. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to leave that review. It is very much appreciated. Folks, if you'd like to leave us a review, please head across to Google or iTunes or Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever you consume your podcast, and leave us a review. I will read it out, as you've just heard. Thank you very much and enjoy the podcast. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations, and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form, and let's have a conversation. It'll be the best thing you could possibly do to kickstart 2019 the right way. As tradespeople, we have a lot of expenses. There's a lot of material costs. There's a lot of supplier costs. There's debtors, creditors, so on and so forth. We're constantly outlaying things on a monthly basis. Sometimes it might be 20 grand, sometimes 50 grand, sometimes hundreds and thousands of dollars every month. Imagine if there was a way that you could turn the money that you're spending on these essential things into a tool that enabled you to travel the world, or basically complement your flights wherever you're going, around the world, domestically, whatever it might be. Pretty cool, right? Well, in today's podcast, you're going to learn exactly how to do that from a guy that helps people do that for a living. It's actually a fascinating topic, and to be honest with you, after recording it, I feel stupid that I haven't implemented some of these things earlier. This conversation was spurred from a post in the group from Mark Nishadi. Mark, thank you for bringing this topic to the attention of the group. I know it generated a lot of interest in the community there, and I thought it would be a great topic to cover on a podcast. You guys are going to absolutely love this. You are sitting on gold mines, and you have no idea how much, well, maybe some of you do, but I will be surprised anyway, what is available to you just by changing a few habits and redirecting some of those I suppose expenses through avenues that can put rewards back into your pocket. Anyway, enjoy this podcast, guys. I really look forward to hearing your comments. If you do have some, please go ahead and post them wherever you see this come through. Or if you want to join the conversation, jump into the Facebook group and join the chat in there. It's where a lot of these topics come from, including this one. So that's all from me. Let's jump right in.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Steve Huey, welcome to the Site Shed podcast.
Thank you very much.
So, Steve, today we are talking about traveling the world at someone else's expense.
Oh, I love that. Love it.
Bit of a sexy topic.
Well, if someone's going to pay for your flight, then that's the best trip ever, right? Just like dinner and lunch.
So, Steve, as you know, I took a screenshot of this and sent it across to you in a message. Someone in our Facebook community the other day asked a question about credit card points and, what are the right cards to use, so on and so forth. I've known you for a number of years now, and it's straight away I thought there's no better person to answer this question than the media sensation himself, Mr. Steve Huey. So, so Mark's question was looking at feedback for the best points systems using credit cards in your business for every day, i.e. paying supplies, fuel, generating overheads, etc. General overheads, etc. He's currently spending about $50K a month, and he feels that he should be making the most out of it. So far he's had feedback on the American Express Platinum card. But obviously there is dozens and dozens and dozens of cards with dozens and dozens of possibilities. And today we are going to hopefully get to the bottom of, the framework behind that, because as you alluded to offline, asking what is the best card is the last question you should really be asking.
Yeah, perfect. This is a really great topic to cover because, like you said, everyone asks about what is the best card, but it's actually the wrong question, because that's like asking what's the best car, because there's so many other questions beforehand
Before we jump in, Steve, so your company's I Fly Flat.
Yes.
Do you want to give a quick rundown on, I suppose, your business and how you got into that? 'Cause it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, so I've been running I Fly Flat for about 8 years now, and I really started this business when I was working in corporate and I was flying business class and collecting frequent flyer points. But none of my peers were that keen on frequent flyer points that after about 4 or 5 trips, I had enough frequent flyer points to fly business class myself for holidays, and they didn't. And that's when I first started to think, well, I didn't do anything for these points. And I got myself a free flight. And these other guys also did nothing. Like, they literally did nothing. They didn't even bother signing up to the frequent flyer program. And they got nothing.
Right.
So hence really was like, if you knew what you're doing, you could get all these cheap or free flights, or you could get nothing. And that's what got me excited about this world of points, which I've since discovered so much more, but still lots of fun.
I suppose there's kind of conflicting perspectives on credit cards, which I'm sure we're going to get into. I mean, I just finished reading for the second time, The Barefoot Investor. And just saying, don't have. And I suppose there's pros and cons for everything, right? And I guess like anything, if you do something correctly, then it could pay you dividends. And if you let things get out of hand, especially credit cards, then you can end up in a big dark black hole of debt.
Yeah. Definitely. When you said that, I was shaking my head, thinking, well, obviously that's one set of rules that you can live by. Don't have credit, but the other thing is it's just about being in control. I think it's
Correct.
Just don't let your credit card control you. You control your credit card, and you squeeze out all the rewards that it has to offer.
Yeah. And I think that's a really big paradigm. And I think, unfortunately, and I've been in this boat myself over the years, I'm lucky now that I don't have, any debt or anything like that. But I mean, over the years I've had debt. And I mean, especially when you're starting up a business, I mean, it's not, $5,000 in debt can be a real grind.
Yeah,
it can take ages to pay that sort of thing off sometimes. But, if you manage it right, then, like you say, that's the key. But I mean, I think one of the disconnects, especially, as somebody that went through an apprenticeship and, went through that traditional trade sort of background, no one ever teaches you this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one ever. I mean, they tell you how to swing a hammer, and they send you out on your own and go, right, go run a business, and you have no idea how to do it. You have no idea to manage money. You have no idea about finance. And I suppose someone like yourself that went through the finance model, you probably have a far better understanding of it. But I'm really, really excited to, I suppose, deliver some frameworks around this whole conversation, because it dives a lot bit deeper, like you say, as to what's the best card. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do, and if you do it properly, it will pay dividends, and that goes beyond, the actual choosing the right card. I mean, it talks about even managing your money and all that kind of stuff, and keeping in control of your credit card is just paramount. So, I'm really keen to get started with this. And I suppose primarily, talking about like what points are and how, how those sort of, how they work, because I mean, a lot of people probably don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I'm really glad we breached the subject about using cards responsibly, because the whole reward system and the points can only work if you don't pay any interest. So when people say credit card interest rates are 18%, 20%, like that should not matter to you if you can manage your card and pay it off in full every single month. Because if you don't, any points you collect would never return the value back, because points are probably only worth about 3% in value. If you're going to pay 20% interest, that means you're going back 17%.
Gotcha.
So this whole conversation is about using your credit card and making sure you pay off in full every single month, and then you can get the benefits.
So do you have, I mean, if I'm jumping the gun here, tell me, but do you have, or do you, have you over the years sort of created frameworks that make sure that happens? Like, I mean, I know I've got colleagues that, say, oh, they've got a business savings account that has the exact same amount of money as their credit card, and whatever they spend on their credit card, they directly pay straight off on the out of one account into the other. I don't know, but whatever works for you, I guess, to make sure.
I think that's way too complicated, because that means that it's requiring you to do something every single time. and it makes spending money on a card a chore. I always just say, set up a direct debit. So therefore, when the due date comes, your card would take the money from your bank account in full every single month. So therefore, the first thing that covers is make sure that you don't fall late for any reason. Sometimes you might be on holidays and you're just not home to pay the bill and you get late. So once you've got your direct debit set up, number one is that it solves the problem of you ever have to pay interest again. So that's a great feeling.
Okay, so this is interesting. So you can actually set up a direct debit on your credit card, which will pay the balance every month.
That's right. Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then you just have to make sure you got enough money in the other account, which you just manage that. So how I tell people is, let's say you've got $10,000 in your savings account and your credit card bill is running at $6,000, for example. Mm-hmm. So what you want to do is you don't want to feel like you've got $10,000. You want to have a look at how much money on your credit card right then and there. Take the $6,000 off, and you've got $4,000 left. And then you kind of live your life or run your business that way.
Right.
And then I guess the other things about credit cards is that if you did have to borrow money in the past, if you didn't have a credit card, like who would you ask? Will you ask your parents? Will you ask your friends to give you $2,000? It's pretty awkward. Whereas with a credit card, you can run it over by $2,000 if you have to pay interest, and then pay it down as soon as you can, and then at least your business kept going. You would stop.
Oh, I mean, that's really valuable. I mean, I never knew that. After as a 38 years old, I never realized you could actually set up your credit card to pay the balance every month.
We can stop the podcast right there.
Yeah, done. I'm out. Mic drop.
Cool.
Okay. And what about anything else that you'd recommend, like in terms of using cards responsibly while we're on that topic?
I think the key is don't sort of chase points. So you using for a business owner versus an individual, there's two different schools of thoughts. As an individual, you don't tend to spend that much money, so earning points is really quite slow. But as a business owner, you got expenses to pay, you got business to run. The key is paying those bills on your credit card with a purpose. So I'm saying that pay for it mindfully, because you might say you're buying something from Bunnings. That Bunnings don't charge any credit card fees. So if you pay your stuff with a debit card or a credit card, it costs you exactly the same. So in that case, you're getting these points for free. But you might have another person that you're buying, something else from, and they want to charge you 1%. Another guy wants to charge you 2% fees paying your credit card. So there's a cost that at that point, and for you to then decide, ideally beforehand, whether you want to pay the fee for those points or not, and then you just stick with that system. So I guess in this podcast, we're talking about figure out a system and then just deploying that system. Don't decide every single time, should I or shouldn't I, because the maths are the same. The maths are actually exactly the same. It doesn't matter if you pay Tom or Harry. If he charges 2%, actually 2% is too much to pay as fees.
Okay. So that's actually a really good point. I mean, I'm guessing we'll get into that when we start talking about more about, how the points work, and, different cards have different points and that kind of stuff. And then, so is that a conversation that you'd have at the point of transaction where you'd say, oh, do you charge a percentage for credit card? And if they say, yeah, it's 2%, and you say, oh, okay, well, I won't use this card then because there's no point.
Yeah, because you have a set system. You know how much you are prepared to pay. Obviously, if you can negotiate when they do a deal, awesome. Right. Because they might say 2%, and you say, well, no, I only want to pay 1%. And they might say, yeah, okay, cool. Well, actually, credit card fees generally are quite easy to negotiate.
Right.
Because people don't really understand what the impact it has to their business. So it's a cheap way to get a discount. And then the magic other side I talk to my clients is it actually builds better relationships in a way. So let me explain this. If you buying something from someone, and especially if they've done a service for you, if they say they have 30-day net terms and you don't pay them on time, what happens is they start feeling like they're not sure if you're going to pay them. You've done work for someone, and it's approaching due date and you haven't heard anything. You haven't got the money. You start feeling, is this guy going to pay me, or is he going to be late? You start thinking about those things, and you don't want the people that you work with questioning, are you going to pay them or are you not going to pay them? So the magic of paying with credit cards is because you have maybe 40, 50 days interest free on your credit card anyway. As soon as you get the invoice, you can just pay them straight away.
Yeah.
And nothing rewards good behavior than paying the bills fast, because they know that they never have to chase you again. And in building good supplier relationships means next time you want them to do something, they'll do your work first because they know you're a good payer. So that solves that problem. But what the magic is, because you're 40, 50 days interest free on your credit card, whether you pay today, next week, or the week after, your credit card bill is still due the same day. So there's no need to delay payment to your supplier.
Yeah,
and I think that's a neat trick, but building better supplier relationships means that you're just going to get a better deal out of them. You just work better.
I mean, there are a few little hacks, I suppose, that I wanted to talk to you about, and I don't know if they're hacks at all, to be honest. But I mean, I know things like PayPal, for example. Like, so we have staff that's based, from different places around the world, and we can pay them through PayPal, and we can set up our American Express card to take the payment through PayPal. Therefore, you're sort of getting points through PayPal, so on and so forth. And I've never actually checked the percentages. I'm probably getting absolutely humped on that. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know, on a probably more relatable scale, there's, apparently now you can pay your tax through American Express cards and this kind of stuff. I don't know, again, if there's percentages, fees tied to that.
I think this is a good time to talk about the percentages, because otherwise it's very useful to understand the value of points. Because the question is, well, why bother, right? The only reason why you bother with points, because points is the cheapest way to fly, full stop. Because when you can use points, the points are effectively paying for your fare. So let me talk about, so you buy an airline ticket, say economy to London, will probably cost you $2,000. A business class to London will cost you typically 4 times or 5 times that. So about $8,000 or $10,000.
Okay.
And then the first class is anywhere around $15,000 to $20,000. So these are the numbers that most people don't look, because not everyone's going to be buying a business first class ticket. Right. But the magic of using points is only about 120,000, and just talking Qantas points. It's 120,000 Qantas points to fly return economy. So you're effectively swapping 120,000 points for roughly $2,000. To fly business class under the new Qantas changes, it's going to be 288,000. So it's a little bit more than double the points of economy, but you're getting 4 or 5 times the value compared to cash price. So that's where points excel, because you're effectively only paying roughly double the points, but you get 5 times the value.
This is actually a good you just raised something there that I'd like to, I suppose, just dive a little bit deeper into. And you said, points are the cheapest way to fly. So for anyone that's out there who's listening to this podcast and they really don't have any intentions of traveling, is it still worth racking up points? Can you only use them for flying?
You can use them for other things like gift vouchers and hotels and things. But if you do that, then each point is only worth half a cent. So this is where the numbers come into it. So 1 Qantas point is only worth half a cent if you use them for gift vouchers, coffee machines, or hotels or other stuff. So therefore, that means when you're paying your credit card and someone charges you 1% fee, then you're going backwards, because you're only getting half of it back through your card points. But if someone's charging you 1% fee, but you're using those points to fly business class, then you're getting about 3.5 cents in value per point. So effectively, you're paying 1 cent, but you're getting 3 cents in value. And that's where the uplift comes. And that's when I talk about using points as the cheapest way to fly, because someone else is effectively paying for your flight. The system is, the reward system is paying for your flight that you're not paying for. You're only paying a cent for that 3 cent ticket.
Okay. Well, that's really good to clarify, I think, because if there's people out there that aren't intending to fly, then go read The Barefoot Investor and don't get a credit card.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, agree. Unless obviously there's things with no surcharge, then you're getting points for free. Then up half a cent per point. But yeah, if you're not going to fly, the frequent flyer program points don't really work for you.
So it raises a valid question, I suppose, in the sense of, well, how do they make money out of points?
Yeah, really good question. So let's just talk Qantas, for example. Qantas and Virgin and Singapore and Emirates, they all do the same thing. They sell their points to the banks and they sell their points to retailers. And effectively, it's a marketing system. So the only reason why you might shop at XYZ supermarket is maybe because you want the points, or if you shop. So basically, it's all marketing. Qantas has created a system where there's a desire for their Qantas points. Mm-hmm. So therefore, the consumers will shop where someone offers Qantas points. So the credit card companies are one of the biggest buyers of points. They buy them from Qantas for a price, maybe about 1 cent, 1.5, 2 cents per point. And then they give them to you as an incentive for you to continue shopping with them. So someone's paying for those points.
Amazing. That is actually quite incredible that because that's a huge. I mean, you're saying you can, in some instances, you can get 3.5 points per dollar spend, and they're basically bridging the gap between the dollar and the $3.5. So they're bridging, $2.5 worth.
That's right. So they're effective that they bind those points to give to you to incentivize you to shop with them. So it's coming off their margin. So generally the shopper is the ones paying for those points.
Yeah, and I imagine, like, when you talk margins, I mean, the margin on a business class flight, I mean, effectively, sure, like it costs more to put those seats in and, maybe serve you nicer champagne, but the margins must be significantly higher on a business class or a first class flight.
For sure. If you're paying full price, that's where they make all their money. So it might be 20 first class seats or 20 business class seats. They make that's where they make the profits. They talk about economy class just pays for the plane to run. Profits come from first and business class. That's where they make the money.
I mean, it's insane how cheap you can fly economy these days. I mean, we've just booked, I just returned flights for the family back to Canada, in August, and it was ridiculous. I think it was like return for $2,200 each or something. It was just insanely cheap.
Yeah. You're just paying for the plane to actually fly. So it's so cheap to fly. I guess which is why Qantas recently reduced some of the fees to fly, right? Because it got to the problem where if you were using your points to fly economy and then you pay the fees and taxes, it worked out to about the same price as buying a ticket. So of course, why would you waste your points that way? So they've made some adjustments to solve that problem, hopefully.
Interesting. Okay, so what's next? I mean, I suppose we've spoken about.
So I guess understand that using points is the cheapest way to fly. So therefore, the quick question is like, well, how do you get more points? So therefore, it actually becomes a maths question, because people talk about using points means a free flight, but it's not that true. So I don't really promote that. I just say using points is the cheapest way. It's the discounted way to fly. And effectively, every single point that you can gather is buying you a discounted ticket.
Right. It's not free. I mean, you're still buying something to get the point, aren't you?
That's right. But it becomes the cheapest price to fly because there's no way you can get that similar discount in a sale.
Yeah.
And then effectively you are creating a discount that you can fly anytime. So rather than waiting for a sale to happen, once you've got these points, you know that you paid X dollars for them. So just say you collected 500,000 points, and over time you would pay X amount in fees. That's practically you prepay for your flight then, and then you can just fly whenever you like. So you made yourself your own sale.
Interesting.
So that's the way I think about points. So you get your points, and then the next way is how do you get more points? And that's where credit card comes into play, because credit card is the most sort of like efficient or most in a way dependable way of earning points, because you're going to spend money. So you run a business. You spend $5,000 a month, $10,000, or like that example. If you're spending $50,000 a month, you know that in 1 year's time, you spend $600,000 in a year. It means that you effectively could potentially have about 600,000 points. And that's roughly 2 business class return flights to Europe. So you score 600,000 points, you get 2 return business class flights to Europe. That's worth $16,000. So the magic for you is that you just make sure that you don't spend anywhere close to $16,000. Ideally, less than that. Don't pay anything more than $8,000 in card fees to get those points, and you're
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting because the card fees are something that I suppose. So when you look at card fees, you think, "Oh, wow, a card's $400 a year, or it's $1,000 a year, or whatever. Why would I bother doing that?" But I suppose when you put it in perspective, and I guess this is why you were saying before, isn't it? Like you need to, like the last question you should really ask is, what's the best card? But once you understand what you want to do with the card, where you want to go, then the number or the cost of the card may become a little bit more relative.
Yeah, the card is purely an instrument. It's like buying a car.
Right.
You need your card to run your business. So it just happens. You just choose the right one. But you always check out the features of it. You check out what's going to do. You check out all that stuff. So the card is just, I just see it as a pure mechanism to get the points, and then go on a holiday.
When you're designing, I suppose, this framework for yourself, and we're talking about, okay, well, let's figure out first. I mean, even then, you just said, okay, like you can't really do much without the points, but then you can't get the points without the card, and then you can't really get the right card without understanding what you want to do with the card. But you kind of need to. It's like you need to see in the future, isn't it? Like if you were to say, oh, okay, well, I want to fly to Europe, return with my wife, next year. Then I need to have this many points and I need this card in order to do that. Is that kind of how you look at it?
Yeah, that's right. Yes. So it's a bit like financial planning, a bit like you start with the end in mind, because all this is just, if you take away the sexiness, it's actually all numbers.
Right.
So you go, okay, so if I want to go with my wife to Europe, business class, okay, how many points do I need? In Qantas as an example, you need 2 lots of 288,000. So I think that's 576,000 points. So that's your target. Then generally you look at how many points do you have now, because you have some accumulated in your accounts already. So you might be missing 300,000 points, for example. And then the next stage you look at is, so how much money do I spend in my business? Do I spend $20,000 a month, 30,000? And then you can then work out, well, how long will it take me to get the points? Will I have enough points by the time I want to go? Or maybe I just set the system up so therefore I have some more points for next time.
So, Steve, is there a way? Sorry, let me rephrase this. Are there certain cards that will offer you more points than others on your purchase?
Yes, there is. So generally, American Express cards will offer more points than Visa and Mastercard. So Visa and Mastercard, you can get between half a point to 1 point per dollar.
Okay.
Whereas MX cards are normally about 1 point per dollar to 1.25 points per dollar. So
right,
MX cards will always earn more, and you always have the problem where people say, and not many people accept Amex. But if everyone has 2 cards, an Amex card and a Visa card, that means every single payment you make, you'll be able to pay one of them and able to score the points for that.
So American Express might offer 1 point to 1.5 point, did you say?
1.25, yeah.
Oh, to 1.25, okay. And then but then when you're putting that in perspective for like upgrading your ticket, you're still getting, an extra $2.50 worth of value. Yeah,
you still get the uplift in a way. And actually, when you mentioned about upgrades, just a quick distinction. So, because everyone believes upgrades is the best value, and I think it was the best value to about 2 or 3 years ago. But the number of points to upgrade versus the number of points to just use the points to book business class is only about, I think, 10 or 15% difference. So,
in favor of what?
Upgrades still a little bit cheaper, lower points than using points to book a full business class redemption. But the difference is upgrade is you got to pay for your economy ticket, you got to pay for one that's upgradable, and then you just got to make a request. So a request just means they got your query, and then the airline decides if there's any seats available. And then if there are seats, then they allocate it out based on a system, and you may or may not get it. So an upgrade is not a certainty. It's just make a request and see what happens. Whereas a full redemption is, if you find a seat, you book it, it's confirmed, and you're flying business.
Okay, I'm with you. Interesting. Okay, cool. Well, that's good clarification because, yeah, I was always under the impression that you should, like, it's a matter of upgrading, but clearly not.
Yeah, well, everyone wants to upgrade. The problem is that not everyone gets to upgrade.
So with all these different cards that are around, you've got your, well, actually, let's go back a step because you were just talking then about, okay, so there's Visa cards and there's Visa Mastercards, then there's Amex, and they offer different points, and you can effectively have 2 cards, sorry. So in that instance, are there, and if I'm jumping the gun again, reel me back in, but are there certain banks or there's certain card types that you can use which attribute to the same account? So like you have an Amex card, which is Qantas, and a Visa Mastercard, which is Qantas, and they both contribute points to the same account.
Yeah, that's right. So you got 2 types of cards within each sort of group. So let me explain. So there's these things called Qantas direct earn cards, which is where everybody spent, they'll automatically convert to Qantas points, and they'll go into your Qantas account. So you can only earn one type of points, which is Qantas. Virgin has some cards like that as well, where all points go. But so they call them direct earn cards. And then you've got the other ones, which is just reward points, where first your points are, they're going to Amex points, or they're going to Westpac points, or they're going to ANZ points. And then you have a secondary decision where to transfer these points to. And those cards are better, I believe, because then you have a choice if you want to transfer it to Virgin or Singapore or Cathay. But the problem is a lot of these cards do not have Qantas as an option. So Qantas made it such that you either choose us or you don't choose us. So they made you select. There's only a couple cards in the market which allow you to have Qantas as an option as well, but most cards is either Qantas or the rest.
Interesting. So I suppose, like, understanding that, when you go back to that, the initial question, okay, what do I want to do with my card? What do I want to do with my points? If that decision comes back, well, I want to fly, locally around Australia or domestic or whatever, then you may be better off going with a Qantas direct earn card as opposed to a card that has reward points.
This is actually the perfect segue, because this goes to which points suit your trip the better. Because if you want to fly domestic Australia, actually Virgin Australia points are slightly cheaper than Qantas points to fly, maybe about 15%. So if your destination is Australia, then obviously if Virgin is generally cheaper unless they don't fly to where you want to go. But if you go to most capital cities, so then you should focus your energies on earning Virgin points. But if your aim is to fly, say, international economy, then now Qantas is the cheapest to fly international economy.
Okay.
So that's your goal there. If you want to fly international business and first, Qantas is the most expensive in points to fly. So, that's your goal. So you have to think about what you want to do with these points. Pick the best points that suit you. Then you choose your credit card at the very last. That's the very last step.
That's amazing. And all this, you just wouldn't know that, would you? You'd be like, oh, I'll just grab his card and you're getting humped. So is that even on the upgrade? It's still the most expensive.
That's right, yeah.
That's hilarious. I know as well with a lot of the cards, and I don't know if this ties into what you were saying about reward points, but I know some of them have affiliates. Like I think Virgin and like Air New Zealand or something, like they're in bed together, or is that true? Yeah,
that's true. So they because they don't fly everywhere, and they have to have partnerships with other airlines in order to get the customers from A to Z.
Right, because I mean, like Virgin fly to a lot of places now, don't they? I mean, you can fly to LA on Virgin, or are they in bed with Delta or something?
Yeah. So Virgin flies their own planes directly to Los Angeles, and then they hook up with Delta to go around America. So, and then towards Europe, Virgin hooks up with Etihad and Singapore Airlines to take you to Europe and Asia. So they do fly with it, then they rely on their partners to get everywhere. Qantas is the same deal. It's just that Qantas flies more of their own planes, but then also they've got partners. British Airways, Cathay, American Airlines, Emirates is a partner. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And so is there like, and this might be a loaded question, but I mean, is there, if you were to look at, two sort of cards next to each other, say one that has Qantas and one that has Virgin, is there one that you would think favours as a whole the other one? Or one point structure, I should say, not maybe the card, but is it like, would you be better off going with something that has a Virgin card, the Virgin points, as opposed to the Qantas direct earn points?
Yeah, so it's either Qantas direct or the rest. So because most of the cards that earn Virgin points can also earn Singapore Cafe, for example. So I personally, I favour American Express points because they are the most flexible, and you earn them first and then you choose to transfer later. And then you can take advantage of any bonus points and things. It's all about, for me, I think it's all about having the best flexibility. You might not know where you want to fly to. So therefore, you don't want to pre-select your eggs into the basket one way.
Right.
And the second one is, what if the airline you want to fly has no seats on the date you want to fly? So then you might have to swing your points elsewhere and fly with them. Because ultimately it comes down to, we have clients that might have 2 million points, but the date that they want to fly has no seats. So technically at that point in time, their points are worthless. But if they had more flexible points, then we can look at all the different combinations of partners and alliances and stuff like that in order to use their points to fly. So it's about having, I think the best question is, what points should I earn rather than what card?
Sorry, that's what I meant. But yeah, okay. Oh, that's interesting. And so the with the way that you guys at iFly Flat work, are you effectively like brokers? Like, do you take them and go, okay, you want to fly here? Let's go search for the best possible deals or point structure or whatever that tie into what you've currently got as an asset with points?
Yeah, I say we're probably advisors. So it's like we're financial advisors, but just for points. So what we do is we help people figure out and set up the best point structure for them with a plan. But we always ask them where they want to go first, because that's the first question. Do you want to fly with your family, or do you want to fly with your friends? Do you want to fly your team? Because depending on who's going to use those points, it rules certain types of points in and out. Because some, for example, like Qantas points, you can only use them to fly your family. You can't fly your colleagues or your friends, technically, unless you're breaking the rules. So depending on what you want to do with those points, you've got to pick the system. So that's what we do. We give advice, basically an annual advice. Say, this is what you're supposed to do now, set it up, and this is what you'll do going forward if things change.
So I noticed as well, like there's, and I've got friends and colleagues that have, say, an ANZ Amex card, and I've got like an Amex card, and it can get me, and there's different privileges on different cards based off whether or not it's through a bank or something. What's the go with that? Like, isn't it the same thing?
Yeah, so there's no such thing as ANZ Amex cards anymore.
Well, okay.
Yeah, because only recently, like last year, they made a change. So all the co-branded, all the bank Amex cards don't exist anymore, except for.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, they've all been, because when the RBA made changes, it became no one, basically they cancelled because they wouldn't make any money on them anymore. So they only issue their own cards. So Amex issues their own cards that they always have. So Westpac is the only one that has a Westpac Amex. It's actually issued by Amex. It's just branded Westpac. So to answer your question, yeah, they all have slightly different benefits because they're issued by different people. But the question I thought you were asking, but you didn't, but I'll answer it anyway, is like you see that different cards say they earn different number of points. So on card A, they might say $1 gets you 2 points. In card B, they say $1 gets you 5 points. The key thing is not how many points you get initially, is how many airline points that those 5 points convert to. Because if 5 convert to 1 airline point, then effectively you're just earning 1 airline point per dollar. So when you talk airline points and compare them, that's apples with apples. Otherwise, if you compare them to 5 bank points, you're comparing apples to oranges, and they're completely two different things.
So you need to, sorry, you kind of lost me there. So So if your card has, say, 3 points on a per dollar purchase, what did you say?
Yep.
So 1.2.
Oh, it's just an example, yeah.
1 point.
Well,
So say 1 point.
3 points, yeah. Well, it becomes 1 point after you convert that. So let's talk about Westpac as a real example. So some Westpac cards are, I think $1 gets you 1.5 points per dollar, but those are Westpac points you get. And to convert Westpac points into Virgin points, it's divide by 3.
Oh.
So really, and again, half a point.
Right.
So unfortunately, that's all the stuff that's in the detail of how many points convert into airline points. So airline points is what you want to compare against, because that's the base rate. If you compare anything else, then you're working at wrong numbers.
I'm with you. So you really need to dive deeper into what the actual airline point is. It's not the reward point per se.
That's right, yeah, because it's like, I think it's like the old telecoms. They used to say you got $1,000 credit a month, and it's like, well, if you're charging $5 a minute, that's not going to last very long. But now they're all talking about minutes, and minutes is the right thing, because every single minute is a minute, right? And ultimately, they came down and they got rid of all the smoke and mirrors.
That's amazing. So that's a really good point, because I mean, a lot of people out there would just think, oh, I'm getting 1.5 points, and then you go, yeah, but it's that's the bank's points, which only equate to 0.5 of an airline point. You're getting shafted.
Yeah, it's like say, I'll give you $1 million in Zimbabwe currency. So hey, that's not worth much.
No offense to any Zimbabwean. Amazing. Okay, so it's sounding to me like effectively Amex is the right way to go, as long as you can keep on top of it.
Yeah. Or both. You should really get an Amex and a Visa or a Mastercard, so you capture both worlds. So every chance you get to spend a card, you can. So I think that's the general thing. I just wanted to cover all those things, because on the surface it seems really easy, but it's actually all about finances. And once you dig down and work out the numbers, then you realize that it's a little bit more complicated, but the value is definitely there. So I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I've never paid for a first business class flight ever.
Yeah, right.
And I fly a lot of that stuff. So
I know. If I follow you on LinkedIn, don't worry, I see your bloody photos.
But it's so cheap. The only reason it's so cheap. Like, why wouldn't you? That's what I'm thinking.
No, I'm with you totally. It makes complete sense. But I think that's a really good framework that for all the listeners out there anyway. And correct me if I've got this wrong, but the first thing the first question you really need to be asking, beyond the point of, okay, where do I want to go with my cards? Obviously, you've got to figure out, okay, what do I want to do with this card? Because that will help you dictate the card that you choose, in terms of if it's direct earn points cards with Qantas, or if it's a reward point card, whatever. And then beyond that, you got to figure out, okay, well, how many airline points does this get me? I don't give a shit about points. Don't tell me about your points. What are the airline points equivalent? So what does each dollar I spend get me in airline points?
Yeah, that's right. And then to work out how many points it costs to fly there. Actually, that's one reason why we put this points app together, which compares how many. Say you want to go A to B, how many points in Qantas, how many points in Virgin, how many points Singapore and Cathay. So what we did is we compared them, because a lot of people, I found, the biggest barrier was they didn't know how many points they needed.
Right.
So
you have a points app.
Yeah, so we have a points app that tells you how many points you need to fly there. So at least you have a goal, because otherwise it'd be like, oh, I like that Porsche, but I don't know how much it is, but I'm going to buy it. It's like, well, if you don't know how much, you'll never save the money for it, because you don't know where to start.
Right. Okay. And is that available on app stores and stuff, or?
It's actually just available on our website. It's just a web app. It's actually a mini website. It's not actually an app.
And
but
what's
we'll put
the
link? Yeah. So iflyflat.com. So iflyflat.com.au/app/app. And
that's great. That's really useful. I'm sure I'll definitely post that in the show notes for all the listeners out there if you want to get to it.
Yeah, something, a useful resource, I think. Because we used to have spreadsheets to know how many, because points keep changing. I keep quoting old points from old programs. I can't remember. So I use the app myself religiously.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, they change like underwear, don't they? They're really dated, but I guess they have to as well. Like, there must be a lot of variables that affect, the relative value of a point in terms of, it could even be, the dollar value of the currency. I mean, who knows?
Oh yeah, there's so many factors, such as supply and demand. So there's just generally inflation as well. So example, like you'll see Qantas and Virgin having so many opportunities to earn points now. Like you can even go for a walk and earn points. You can go. Qantas has a sleeping app where you can earn points by going to bed early. Like, because they're pumping so many points out in the system, there's going to be an adjustment because it's just like money supply. If you keep printing money, inflation will happen.
I've got one final question. You see a lot of, actually, this is something that I've been looking at recently myself. Like I'm ready to get a new computer, and I was looking around and I thought, I can just go and buy the computer, or you can go and get like one of these credit cards, which has 12 months, 15 months, 18 months, whatever, interest free, and you effectively let the bank pay. And you can. I don't know if it's the right way to look at it, but I figure if the money's better in my account, if I'm not going to charge interest on it.
But I guess interest rates are pretty low at the moment. So if you had this money in your bank account and you're earning 2.5% interest, rate, then maybe it's not worth it because you got to remember to pay it off. If you don't, then you're paying 20%, something like that.
But I mean, if they're saying it's interest free over a 15-month period, then you're not paying interest until 15 months, right?
Oh, that's right. Or the terms could say that you're paying in equal installments every month as well.
Right.
So it actually depends on what the fine print is. And I guess that's why I keep mentioning the fine print. That's where all the good stuff is, not the headline marketing terms. And
there's a lot of, you see a lot of things around there, which is if you've, what do they call it? Balance transfer or something.
Yep. Those are cool too. Yeah, so balance transfer cards. I've got a few of them. So sometimes you just move the balance over, and then they give you 18 months or so.
Right.
It's just about number one thing is if you do decide to take one of those offers, just have a good read of the details, because otherwise, the worst thing to know is, for me, is like you think it's a good deal, but it turns out to be a shit deal, and you didn't know. Right. But if you knew that what you're going to do, then you did it. That's cool, and I think that's the way we operate. Yeah,
interesting. But I mean, it sounds like it's definitely worth, if you've got like an investment. I mean, based off the conversation we just had, it definitely makes sense to buy something like that on a card, even if you just go ahead and pay it straight off the next month, whatever. But like you're just getting points for nothing, really.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So, you buy from Apple, you can actually earn extra points by going through these things called a Qantas Mall or the Virgin e-store. And what it is an affiliate link. So you earn some extra Qantas points on top of the normal price that you pay. Plus you get your credit card points on top. So there's actually many, many ways to earn points just by doing exactly what you do anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And so you can go through. So that's almost, they've got like an affiliate sort of thing set up almost.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, that's great, man. I don't know. Have we covered everything that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I think so. Like if everyone's listened to this episode, maybe listen to it twice. It's just understanding that the points of value is worth collecting if you can. It's worth collecting if it's cheap enough to do so. But generally, I say what I never gave was that in terms of surcharges, generally we say don't pay more than 1% for Visa and Mastercard, and no more than 2% for American Express. And those are easy markers to decide in terms of your surcharges. And if anyone charges you more than that, they shouldn't have to. Like in the past, people said, Amex charged me 3%. Those days, the dinosaur days, like they should not charge you more than 2% these days.
So don't pay more than 1% for Visa Amex.
Yep.
And Visa Mastercard. And don't pay more than 2% for Amex.
That's right. Yeah. And anything above that, well, maybe that's when you use your cash. following those rules ensure that your points never cost you too much. You get the best value from that. And then obviously there are some circumstances where, they don't accept anything else, or it's just super convenient to pay with your card. And then, that's you're doing it for another reason. Yeah.
Interesting. So, so you effectively got, actually, let's suppose another thing. You got these Visa debit cards and, stuff like that. Can you earn points on those things, or is that not really because it's effectively cash?
Yeah, effectively cash. Like there are a couple of debit cards that earn points. For example, Bankwest has one that earns you 5 points per transaction. But those are so slow earn, like you'll never get enough points.
So they're 5 points, but it's not what you were saying before. It's not.
It's not per dollar. It's 5 points per transaction. So it could be $100 thing that you're paying for. You still only earn 5 points. Because the debit card.
But then that's not airline points, so that's Bankwest.
Well, actually, in that case, it's Qantas points. So they are airline points. But the thing is, debit cards, there's no fee in them to pay for your points. So there's nothing to reward you with.
Right.
Because when so when you use your credit card, there's a merchant fee that the merchant has to pay, and that's where the money comes from to give you the rewards. But in a debit card, that transaction costs like maybe 30 cents or less. There's no money in that margin to give you points because someone has to pay for those points. It's either you or it's them.
I'm with you. That's interesting. So okay. So effectively, if you had if you got a Visa debit card, you'd have you'd have a debit card or whatever. You'd have maybe an American Express, and you might have a Visa or a Mastercard that's tied to the same sort of point structure.
Yeah,
and you can effectively use one of the three cards based off what the transaction percentages are.
Yeah, that's right. And then you'll be earning points at your maximum capacity.
Love it.
Closer to your next very, very cheap flight before you know it.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, this is great. So for any of the listeners out there that want any more information, they can head across to iflyflat.com.au.
Yep, perfect.
Sound right?
We do a weekly video. We do all this stuff. So you have a look at the website. Hopefully there's lots of info for you to gather.
And you're at iflyflat across social, I saw, on your Instagram anyway.
Yeah.
And you're going to leave, we'll put in the show notes, guys, the link to that app that Steve was talking about. And there's also going to be a link to a useful blog post which talks about what again, Steve?
Yeah, how to find frequent flyer seats.
How to find frequent flyer seats. Perfect. Okay, great. All right, wonderful. Well, mate, thank you very much for your time. This has been informative.
My absolute pleasure. I think my goal is to help more people fly business class without ever having to worry about the cost again. So this is getting me closer.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like a pretty good goal to me.
Thank you.
All right, mate. Well, thank you very much for your time, and for the listeners out there, if you've got any questions or if you, you wanted anything clarified on, by all means, just post those questions wherever you see these posts in social media or through our email or whatever. And I'm sure Steve would be willing to come back and answer those questions.
Definitely. Thanks very much. Thank you.
All right, listeners, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from this show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.